السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين. Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given us the tawfiq and the ability to come early to the house of Allah to listen to the words of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. 2 weeks ago we started with regards to practicing deen according to the Quran and the Sunnah. Today we'll continue with that. Person's islah, reformation of a man, there are two things necessary. आदमी के इस्लाह के लिए दो चीज़ ज़रूरी है, एक है किताबुल्लाह और एक है रिजालुल्लाह. For a person's islah, reformation, two things are necessary. One is the kitabullah and one is the rijalullah. Kitabullah are the kitabs which were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kitab जो Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ने भेजे हैं, जैसे कि ज़बूर, इंजील, कुरान, सहीफ़े, यह है किताबुल्लाह. Kitabullah are those books which were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Example, the Injil, the Zabur, the Torah, which we'll call the Bible, the Gospel, and the Quran. And Rijalullah are those people who are sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rijalullah jaise ke Anbiya alayhimus salam. Rijalullah are the prophets. Now, to get for a person's reformation, it is necessary that these two are present. One was the Rijalullah, the prophets, and the second was the Kitabullah, the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now with the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at times He sent a Nabi, but He would not have sent a book with that Nabi. But whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a Rasul, then with that Rasul He would always send a kitab, a book. एक वो अंबिया अलैहिस्सलाम होते हैं जो अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला सिर्फ नबी को भेजे, नबी को भेजे, उनके साथ कोई किताब नहीं. वो जो पहली किताब उनसे पहले थी उस पर अमल कर लेते थे. और दूसरे ये है जो रसूल होते थे, रसूल अकेला नहीं आता था, रसूल किताब के साथ लेकर आते थे. Classified not only as a nabi but also a rasul. For example, Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Dawud alayhi salam, those prophets who were given books, they are classified not only as Nabi but also as a Rasul. So a Rasul would never come on his own, but with a kitab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send a book with that Rasul. Now, the kitab, the book would not come on its own either. There was necessary for a prophet, a Rasul, to come with that book. Why? So that this prophet could guide according to that book, guide the people according to what is written in that book. So therefore, that is why we see the Quran, understanding the Quran or understanding the book, it is necessary for a Rijalullah to be present, a prophet to be present. Just like the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wanted, He would have revealed the whole Quran in text form in front of everyone. Give us a book when we wake up in the morning and say you have to make amal on the kitab. No, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Quran via Jibreel alayhi salam to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam slowly. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have revealed the whole Quran at once. कोई मुश्किल चीज़ नहीं थी अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला के ऊपर कि वो आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम पर पूरा कुरान नाजिल कर दे, लेकिन थोड़ा थोड़ा नाजिल किया था. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have revealed it at once, but He didn't. He revealed portions of the Quran slowly, and He revealed the whole Quran in that way. And that too, also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wanted, He could have revealed the Quran directly to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like speaking how. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not do that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran via Jibreel alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send wahi. Tell Jibreel alayhi salam, Jibreel alayhi salam would bring the wahi down to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So this is a chain. This is a chain to make insan understand that you cannot pick up the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and just understand it on your own like that. But a murabbi, a teacher, a tutor is necessary in whatever you learn. Like we discussed previous 2 weeks ago, that if a person wants to make anything in any field, for him is necessary that he has a murabbi, he has a tutor, he has a teacher. Now, there is a difference between insan or janwar mein fark hai. Between human beings and between animals, there is a difference. Animals, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had created in such a manner that they do not need any training. For example, you take a fish. When a fish is born, when it hatches out from its egg, immediately it starts swimming. It does not need assistance of any other fish to swim. It just does it on its own. But insan, human being, he cannot do anything on his own. If a person thinks to himself that if a fish can just hatch out from his egg and swim on its own, when my baby is born, I can just throw it in the water, he'll start swimming. What will happen? He'll be arrested that you have drowned your own baby. Because the baby cannot swim just like that being born. It has to be taught. When he grows up, then slowly he'll be taught to swim. The same way, for example, you get a hen, a chicken. When the baby chick is born, immediately it starts pecking for the food. It is not taught how to peck for the food. It will do it on its own. But insan, human being, if you give a child, a baby that's born, you give it bread in its hand, will it start eating? It will not start eating. It has to be slowly nurtured. First the mother will feed it milk, and then the mother will take it off the milk and start to feed it soft food. And then slowly it will start. So it's insan, human beings are trained to do things. With someone as a trainer, someone who trains that insan, that human being to do something. Child starts walking, it doesn't start walking on its own. They train it to walk. They'll hold its hand, make it walk, it'll hold something. And then slowly, after crawling, falling a few times, the father helping it to walk, and then slowly it'll start walking and running. But on its own, it will not do it. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created insan like this, that it needs a teacher, it needs someone to teach it. So the same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us with regards to deen as well as other aspects that we see in the world, whether a person wants to become a doctor, he wants to become a carpenter, whatever, he will not all of a sudden just do it. Or he will not able to become a doctor just by reading all the medical books. But he will have to go into the practical field and study under the doctors and do everything. Then he will get his sanad, then he will get his certificate to say, now you are a doctor or now you are whatever. So the same way for insan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us that with regards to dunyawi things or akhiri things, with regards to the things of akhirah, with regards to whether it's deen or dunya, a teacher is very necessary. So that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through these examples that I have mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as a guide. And even the wahi that was sent to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sent via Jibreel alayhi salam. When the Nabi, he got the wahi, now Sahaba radiyallahu anhum were present. Sahaba radiyallahu anhum were present. One was that the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum could have heard the wahi themselves and led the Quran and preached the Quran. No. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to show via Jibreel alayhi salam to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum at Ashab Sufa, which was the first maktab, the first madrasa, they would sit there in the company of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. No timetable, no time schedule, no, we'll do this, come for 1 hour at this time. No. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would sit, the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum would sit humbly in front of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and whatever wahi was sent to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would transport it to them, transform. And from heart to heart, in those days there were no kitabs, books that they would read through the books and study, but what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum would learn that and take that from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And in return, the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum passed it on to the Tabi'een, from amongst whom Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi was also a Tabi'i, is counted, and all other Tabi'een. And from them, the Tabi'een, those people who came after the Tabi'een, and like that, as a chain, deen has come to us. So deen One is that a person studies himself, but one is that a person studies through a tutor or a teacher. Now the difference between the two things, ilm, knowledge is light, is nur, and nur is transformed only from heart to heart, which comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One is a person studies books and he gets information. This is just information. But one is a person studies underneath a teacher or a tutor, which we've all been through the system. When we are small, we must have went to a maktab and we went to a madrasa, and by our teacher we learned alif, ba, ta, tha. We learned the letters of Arabic, and then we learned how to read Quran, whether we studied under our father. Father taught us how to read Quran, or our teacher taught us. But someone was teaching us how to read the Quran on our own accord. We couldn't. So with regards to all aspects of deen as well, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum learned from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they passed it on. And through generations like this, the deen has come to us. Through generations like this, the deen has come to us. So therefore, it is very necessary that we understand that with regards to deen as well, and to get the light of deen, we have to study under someone who has studied it before. Yeah? Someone who has studied it before, to get that nur and that light. Now, there were certain companions, all the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were very great in the ilm and the knowledge. When we graduated from our madrasa, one of our ustad told us that, the ilm of Sahaba radiallahu anhum was to such an extent that you would say, the ulama and the shuyukh of nowadays, the ilm and the knowledge which they have, the lowest rank Sahabi would have that amount of ilm, knowledge. So imagine how much ilm the Sahaba radiallahu anhum had. And he said, from amongst all the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, there were some Sahaba radiallahu anhum who were classified as ulama, who were classified as fuqaha or muhaddithin, that had so much great ilm, or who were classified as muftis. Now there were certain Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Amongst them, there were approximately about 130 Sahaba radiallahu anhum who had ilm to a very great extent. Some of them men, some of them ladies. Like we know Sahaba radiallahu anhum who are close to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, and women like Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha. How much ilm, how much knowledge she had. From these Sahaba, 7 Sahaba radiallahu anhum are known as those who used to give fatwa with regards to deen. Who were these Sahaba radiallahu anhum? They were Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, Hazrat al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiallahu anha, Hazrat Zayd bin Thabit radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu, and Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu. These were regarded as known, jaise hum kehte hain, muftiyani ikram, the muftis of the time, who had the knowledge, who would pass fatwas with regards to deen, these Sahaba radiallahu anhu. This is very important. Nowadays we ask children, they will know this soccer star's name, they will know, if you say that I support Man United or Man City or whoever I support, name the team of the players, they'll name all the players' names in a minute. Even those who sit on the bench, who are warming the bench, they'll tell you all their names and who's the director of the football and who's the CEO and whoever. But we ask them with regards to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum or Anbiya alayhi salam, they do not know, which is, sorry to say on our part that we have not given them that deen. So it is very necessary for us as well, and for our children. I was just reading of the other day, they say the character of a child is determined on what the character of the parent is. So they say studies have shown in the USA that they made, that whatever the character of the parent is, from the two parents, that or the grandparents, which will rub off on the child's character. So if the father is very hot-headed and gets angry very quickly, and the mother is cool or something, quiet, then the child will take one of these two characters. It will take from one of the two parents. So they say, in the research that they done, they said that we, keep on implementing on our child. Don't do this, do that, do this, do that. but we don't do it ourselves, then we cannot expect our children to implement that and do that, because they will take from us. Children, they say from a young age, from when they're really small, we might think they're 4 years old, 3 years old, till the teenage age. We think they are chote hai, bacche hai, they are still small. No, they become, that they pick up everything through listening, looking, judging adults' characters. They inculcate that into them. We do not realize it, but subconsciously in the back of their minds, everything goes in the back of the mind of a child. And the child picks up very quickly. Whatever you do, the child will do afterwards. It is like a famous story they were saying about once there was a father and a son. They were walking. And when they reached a certain place, then the son slapped the father. The son slapped the father. And the father didn't say anything. The father didn't say anything. Otherwise, when they went home and they reached home, then the father made the son sit down. The father made the son sit down, and he explained to them, look, it is respect for the child, that the child should respect his father. You shouldn't do anything, you shouldn't even raise a voice or anything to the father. But the reason why I didn't tell you is because when I was your age, I was walking with my father. And when I reached a certain place, I got angry with my father and I smacked my father. So today I realize that because of that action which I did to my parent, my own child has done that to me. So you can see how character rubs off on the younger generation. So this is why it is very important, we as adults, not only by tongue, but action as well, should show. We should be in such a manner that even the children, the small children, their character becomes like that. So nevertheless, we are talking about the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. We mentioned those Sahaba radiallahu anhum who were known very high in the ilm and the knowledge, and they would give fatwas with regards to deen. Then the fatwas of the latter alone had been compiled in 20 volumes. So these Sahaba radiallahu anhu compiled all these fatwas in 20 volumes, which today is, you get it in 20 volumes. There were 13 other Sahaba known as the Mutawassitin, the in-between. These Sahaba radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Hazrat al-Mu'mineen Salama radiallahu anha, Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu, Abu Sa'id Khudri radiallahu anhu, Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, Uthman radiallahu anhu, Abdullah bin Amr bin As radiallahu anhu, Abdullah bin Zubair radiallahu anhu, Abu Musa Ash'ari radiallahu anhu, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu, Jabir bin Abdullah radiallahu anhu, Muaz bin Jabal radiallahu anhu. These scholars had also issued decrees with regards to deen, but in lesser numbers than the previous 7 Sahaba radiallahu anhum. So if we see in the ahadith today, the first 7 Sahaba radiallahu anhum which were mentioned, their ahadith narrated to the ummah by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are far greater in number, that their names always come in narrating ahadith. Now, the ahadith, like I mentioned 2 weeks ago, the Quran, to understand the Quran, you have to have the ahadith. The ahadith is the explanation of the Quran. Example, the Quran tells us, Aqimus Salah, establish Salah. But the Quran, nowhere in the Quran will we find how many times a day do you have to pray Salah, what times do you have to pray Salah, how many rakats do you have to pray Salah in your Salah, what do you have to read in your Salah. This you will get through the tafsir of the Quran, which is the ahadith. Now the explanation of the ahadith is the fiqh, which we get, which our fuqaha have done. So certain places in the ahadith, there will be certain rulings that will say that you have to do this, you have to do that. In certain ahadith, it will say that when a person performs salah, before he goes into ruku, he must lift up his hands and put them down and then go into ruku. And certain ahadith that he will say that before he goes into ruku, he should not lift up his hands during salah and he should go straight down into ruku. So to the eye, it seems like it contradicts to us. But where we will find the answer for this is from the fuqaha, for those from the fiqh. And now the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, after the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the Tabi'een and the Tabi'een, amongst them there were certain ulama who were known as the muhaddithin, who had memorized so many ahadith, thousands of hadith. And there was certain ulama who were known as fuqaha. Now to become a faqih, to become from amongst the fuqaha, it was very necessary for them not only to be a muhaddith, they had to be a master in the tafsir of the Quran, they had to be a master in the ahadith, they had to be a master in all aspects of deen. When they had become masters in these aspects of deen, then they would take out the rulings of deen from the Quran and the Sunnah. From the Quran and the Sunnah. In those days, there used to be many ulama, but in today's, then the people would follow those ulama according to the rulings that they had made from the Quran and the hadith which they had taken out. 4 great imams were followed greatly. Until today, their following is in the huge, which we know as the 4 great imams of fiqh. There's the Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, there's the Imam Malik rahmatullah alayh, there's the Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayh, and there's the Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayh. These were the 4 great imams of fiqh. And wherever you go, you will find that the people of deen will follow one of these 4 imams. Now, a misconception, people say that, why do we have to follow an imam? What is necessary for the imam? We have the Quran, we have the hadith. We can look in the Quran and we can look in the hadith and we will follow deen. No. Taking you back again in the beginning that I said with regards to the examples that for a person to have a tutor, someone who teaches him deen, or any aspect of the dunya things, the same way with regards to deen. Now these ulama who were Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi, Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi, they were very great scholars of deen. Very, very great scholars of deen. And it is not that we are following them. Understand this well. We are not following them. We are using them as a guide to follow deen, to follow the Quran and the Sunnah. So if a person tells you that why you're following them, follow the Sunnah and follow the Quran. So you are not following Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, you are not following Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi, what he has said, but you are using them as a guide to follow deen, to follow the Quran and the Sunnah. Why is it necessary to use them as a guide? Because if a person himself picks up the Quran and the hadith, then he will not eventually follow what he's saying there. He will eventually follow his own desires, his own nafs and desires, what is easy for him. So in the coming weeks, inshallah, we will also discuss with regards to the lives of Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, and why is it necessary to follow a madhab or a law, so to say, and why it's necessary for us. So inshallah, we'll continue with this inshallah in the coming weeks inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to make amal wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.